Right, how's everyone doing? Good, I hope, I want to talk about the 3DO, and why I think that, the 3DO has good games on it, but unfortunately, in my opinion, the two reasons why it failed was its price, and I had a lot of FMV shit on it, full motion video games, but its price, 700 quid, right? So it came out, 1991, 1992, around that time. 1993, right? So the Super Nintendo and the Sega Mega Drive were the two hottest consoles, and they were out nearly a year already, And both of these systems were far cheaper than the 3DO. They had better game libraries, and a lot of the games that were on the 3DO were on the Super Nintendo or the Sega Mega Drive, But when it comes to FMV stuff, that's the thing that I think killed it, And the 3DO was the first CD-based system, so it was new technology. So a lot more R&D went into it for the devs, and that cost money. So that wasn't particularly attractive to these devs, knowing that no one had a 3DO. So why should they put in the effort to make a game for this system when there's very little chance of people buying it? Because it's new technology, it takes a lot longer to study it and make a game for it. Where with the Mega Drive, it's easier. With the Super Nintendo, it's easier, and you're guaranteed to sell the games because everyone has these consoles. Like back in the day, no one had a 3DO, nobody, because it was so expensive. The thing is, 3DO, they didn't make the consoles themselves, but they gave the specs to other companies to build them for them, like Panasonic, Sanyo, and other companies. So they actually built a 3DO for 3DO. Now, they all work the same way, they all just look different. Some are top loaders, some have slide open disc tray and stuff, but basically they're all the same machine. So these companies, they want to make a profit from these systems, so that's why it's so expensive, because it costs a lot to develop, and these companies don't want to take a loss on each console, so that's why it was so expensive, and it didn't work out. Unfortunately, but there are good games on the 3DO. Getting a 3DO nowadays, is better value than getting one back in the day. In my opinion, the best way to play 3DO games, you would just emulate it on a PC or the Atari VCS, which you can. It's better playing 3DO games that way than actually going onto eBay, buying a console and buying the games, because all that stuff is old, and there's a chance you might get a dodgy system that doesn't work too well. The games might be all scratched up because they're on CDs. eBay, you're taking a chance because it's all second hand, and there's very little comeback. So you have to have faith that the person selling you the 3DO, it's true to his word that it's in good working condition and the game works great, because that would been burned in the past where the stuff showed up and it wasn't working and the game was scratched to bits and I couldn't do anything about it. But I learned that lesson, But back then there was no PC. I didn't have a PC, and the Atari VCS wasn't even it's a thing. It wasn't even in development. So the only way to play these old school games is to actually buy them on eBay, which I did. I bought a 3DO for cheap enough. I got a few games. The first time I got burned, I decided to buy a second one because I actually liked the games on the 3DO. I felt like it was worth buying it. Now, if I would have known that the Atari VCS was going to be coming out back then, I wouldn't have bothered. Or if I had a PC, But the reason why I didn't get a PC back in the day, I don't have the space for it. Basically, whereas the VCS is smaller, compact, as the PC. Brilliant. So now we can really enjoy the games around the 3DO. But I just want to talk about why it failed. I'm sure people already know this, but I just want to give my perspective and what I think about it. Like back in the day, we had Electronics Boutique in town that sold games. This was before GameStop, and I went in there, and they had a 3DO set up on the television showing it off. Dragon's Lair they were showing off, which is like a FMV animated game, which is not too bad, but you just click on the button at a specific time, and if you don't do it fast enough, you're dead. That's basically what it is, It looked amazing. I thought it looked great, but then I realised playing it, that's all it is. You have to press a button. It shows you on the screen what to press, and you have to press it fast enough. If you don't, your man dies. So you're not actually controlling anything, which is the first thing that annoyed me, really. So because the 3DO got support from Electronic Arts, we had like Road Rash, Need for Speed, and other games which are cool. Like Escape from Monster Manor, which is a 3DO exclusive game. You have Killing Time, both of which are first-person shooters. So I had interesting games on it, but like I said, not the price, £700, it just wasn't worth it. But nowadays, like I said, with my Atari VCS, I could play these games, and it's awesome. So, with them, my opinions on the 3DO, it just didn't have a chance because it was too expensive, and game developers didn't think it was worth their time developing games for it because they knew they wouldn't sell because no one had it. Mainly. So most of the games were from Electronic Arts and stuff like that. But some of the better games on the 3DO, in my opinion, Super Street Fighter 2, Wolfenstein 3D, pretty cool. Need for Speed is good in it, Road Rash is good in it. But like I said, the Sega Saturn and the PS1 were right around the corner, and both of which could play games a lot better than the 3DO. So the 3DO was the guinea pig to see how a game would work on this CD technology. Same for the Atari Jaguar, that was a guinea pig as well, trying to figure out how to make a 3D game and how to make it work and stuff. So in my opinion, the Atari Jaguar and the 3DO we used as guinea pigs, and because of that, the PlayStation turned out to be an amazing system because they learned all the mistakes, how to make the games properly run better, look better. So the Sega Saturn had the same sort of problem with the 3DO. It was just hard to develop games for, and no one had it. Everyone had a PlayStation, or everyone wanted to get a PlayStation. Very little people wanted to get the Sega Saturn, and with the 3DO, it was more expensive than the PlayStation. It was £500, hard to develop for, because Sega had the intention of making the Saturn a 2D powerhouse. 3D wasn't really on their minds, which it should have been. But in hindsight, they panicked and they realised that Sony PlayStation is 3D intensive, looks awesome, and this is the future. So Sega fucked up when developing the Saturn from the get-go. They thought that 2D gaming was the future. It wasn't, it was 3D. But to their credit, they panicked. They put in a second processor that would enable 3D rendering on the Sega Saturn, but it was very complicated. And the developers didn't want to put in the time and effort to figure out how to make a 3D game run properly on the Sega Saturn, because again, no one had it. And their games weren't guaranteed to sell. So that's why the Saturn failed. Too expensive, hard to develop games for. But on top of all that, the Sega themselves killed Sega Saturn by stupid decisions. The first decision was a surprise launch instead of releasing it when they said they were going to. Because the original release date was September of 1995 for the Sega Saturn. Now, the PlayStation was launching pretty much around the same time, but they knew that the PlayStation was going to be £100 cheaper. It's going to be way more powerful in terms of 3D and stuff. So they panicked and they knew they were going to lose. So they thought the only way to beat the PlayStation was to have a 4-month head start in May of 1995. So this was a surprise announcement. They just decided to do it without telling anybody. Without telling retailers or game developers. Just decided, hey, May, it's out, go get it. But retailers were pissed off because they weren't notified about this. They didn't have shelf space. No shelf space. No, because it was all allocated to PlayStation and Nintendo and other systems, because they were in contact with the retailers where Sega weren't. Sega just showed up in a big truck full of Sega Saturn stuff and says, look, we want to sell these Sega Saturns. And a lot of shops in America says, no, we don't have the space for it, so you can take these Saturns and bring them back to the fucking warehouse. We're not selling them, So, so they pissed off the retailers, the developers, because the developers thought they had until September to have their games ready, but Sega just turned around and said, no, you had to have them done by May. So they said, fuck you, you didn't keep us in the loop. So you expect us to release a game that's, without any warning, and your system is more expensive and harder to develop for. Why should we do that? When the PlayStation is £100 cheaper, it's easier to develop for, and Sony will keep us informed. So, fucking back forward for Sega. It's round down, and that's why it failed. That's why Sega are no longer a console manufacturer, because they're all fuck ups. And they released too many systems at once. You had the Mega CD, you had the 32X, now you had the Sega Saturn, and Sega wasn't giving them support. They kept dropping them. They dropped the Mega CD, they dropped the 32X, and then pretty soon they dropped the fucking Saturn, because no one was buying it. And it was just sad, unfortunately, but that's the way it is. And even though the Saturn has a great library of games, better than the 3DO, the fact that is Sega pissed off their fan base, and they pissed off retailers and game developers. So that's it. 3 strikes in a row, and that's it for Sega. They brought out the Dreamcast in 1999, which did fucking brilliant, but as well as it did, it just couldn't. Sega ran out of money, and they had to give up on the Dreamcast as well, and they had to stop making consoles because they had no more money. I mean, they're insane, but that's the way it is. Now the 3DO, that pretty much failed around 96, I think, because no one cared about it, but 3DO didn't fucking destroy it like Sega did. Like Sega just destroyed themselves, Instead of being common sense and look Nintendo, they release a system, they leave it for 5 or 6 years, then they move on to the next one. Where Sega's about the Mega CD, then a few months later the 32X, then a few months later the Sega Saturn, to support all these systems. And the Game Gear was still out at the time. So, everything failed, for Sega, which is unfortunate. But anyway, they're my opinions. So anyway, I hope everyone has a good day. Take care, bye bye.